Hello, my name is Melina Mitchell, and I am joined by.
Araya Pierre-Louis.
Today we are going to be recording our second episode of the Youth Surge podcast. I am joined by Assemblyman Billy Jones and Assemblyman Matt Simpson.
What has been the role of social media in your campaign process?
Campaigning?
Yeah.
It's huge, and as we were talking about before, it's added a whole new dynamic to campaigning because as much as I like social media, there's certainly drawbacks to it, and we were talking about how it's led into some not so great features of campaigning, I would say, because people get a lot of information off from social media, but you have to have it, and it's actually been for the most part positive. It lets people know where what you're doing out in the community, lets people know your stance on certain issues, and it's certainly been in my campaigning, at least, it's been very prominent because we do ads on our social media. We do a lot of different variations with it, and actually my social media guru is right over there. So we've really taken it to the next level, and it's been for the most part positive. But as you know, social media does have its drawbacks as well.
Yeah, in the district that I represent, it's so rural and spread out geographically, and it being comprised of approximately 140,000 people, it really is a critical part of reaching all those people in places that would be very difficult to do in traditional campaign methods, such as door to door. I prefer door to door, as I had said earlier. I love the one-on-one interaction, face to face. But social media is very important. People have very busy lives, and sometimes they'll see that information from your post or your ad, and that can be the difference.
It's kind of funny, actually. You'll see, I'll walk into a place and we get plenty of news media, traditional news media coverage as well, but I'll walk into a place and a couple of people there, and it's always funny when the older people, they say, well, I saw you on the news. I saw you on the news there, whatever, and it was from the social media. So in that regard, the message is getting out, so it's a good thing. But like I said, everything comes with its drawbacks. I mean, as we were talking about before, sometimes things can get rather nasty and some misinformation can get out on social media, so you have to counteract that. But we always try to keep our message and our information on social media very positive. So it's been good.
One of the drawbacks about social media is you have limited space to be able to communicate, articulate a message. So that's really important too, is to make sure it's succinct and it has as much information as possible. Otherwise, it can work the other way as well. The way you write it down or you say it could be different than the way somebody receives it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. In your opinion, why do you believe that voting is so important, especially because the age range between 18 and 25 is typically the least represented, or they tend to vote the least? So why do you think that it's important for those people to vote?
It's our voice. It's what our democracy was founded on. I don't want to sound cliche here, but it's it's the tool that people have to speak out. It's their voice. It's who they want to see in government. And I will say all forms of government are extremely important, right on down, from federal to the very most local you get. Oftentimes your local town and village officials and county officials are the ones that are, they're the boots on the ground, so to speak. They're dealing with the issues that people's day-to-day lives revolve around, whether it be, basic things like water and wastewater, to the roads and bridges, to dealing with their neighbor's cat or whatever. But it's very important because as we've seen that people need to vote, and I will say that some of those numbers, and I would even take it from like 35. I think you mentioned 18 to 25, 18 to 35. You can see that especially here in the North Country, that as we go down in the ages, that voting those numbers diminish each way. And I have a hard time understanding that. I know young people are busy. They're doing things. Everybody's busy, but you're basically deciding, or you have the right to, or you should be voting to decide what you want the future of your community, what you want the future of your state and country to look like. And it's extremely important. And I often say, people come to me and they'll complain about an issue or have their concerns about an issue, and I said, well, did you vote? Did you put your action, your democratic due process in action to do that? No, it doesn't matter. Well, I'm here to tell you it does matter. Everybody should get out and vote, and I encourage our younger people to get involved in the process and to vote. It doesn't take a monumental effort to vote. We have made numerous processes and made voting much more accessible, especially here in New York State, that people, take 10 minutes, 20 minutes out of your day to go do it. You can do it 10 days before an election now. We've had early voting. You can do it on election day. You can do it via mail now. I don't know where we're at with that in the process right now, Matt, but basically you can get no excuse absentee ballots as well. So there are many, many opportunities to do it. And I encourage everyone to do it because it is your voice. It's what you have, and you should be exercising your right to do that.
Absolutely. When I first became eligible to vote, I could not wait. It was so important to be part of the process and have my voice count towards what I felt is important for my future. And I think that's what people need to realize. This is your opportunity every time there's an election to create change in a positive way towards your goals and what you want to see for your family and future generations. It's the one thing that is guaranteed in this country, the opportunity to vote, and we should all be taking advantage of that. And, we've seen many elections decided by one vote. That's how important it is that every single person does vote.
There's been a few recent local elections decided that, and even on the state level, 5-8 votes decided an election. So, people need to do it. Need to get your peers out and then get them involved. I think they can register now at 17 as well. Mm-hmm. You can register at 17 and vote when you turn 18. Yeah. I think that's a tool that you can have because oftentimes when you turn 18, I know things are busy, but there's many processes that we have taken to do that.
And adding on to that, why do you think that state and local government get less voting participation than federal government?
I think it's just the attention, honestly, around even in presidential years, every 4 years we see the statistics. Voting participation is much higher because it's everywhere, right? It's on the news. It's on social media. It's just so prominent. And even in the midterms, you'll see a drop off on it as well. Like a midterm is, as you may know, is an election before or the election in between the presidential years. Elections every 2 years. There's such a drop off, and there's even more of a drop off when you have odd year elections. We call them odd year elections ending in an odd year. And a lot of our towns and in villages and some counties actually vote in those off years. And I think those elections can be just as important as an even year election. So I think it's just the attention garnered. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere in the past 6 months prior to the election, 4 months prior to the election, where you weren't hearing about something about Trump or Harris. So it's just the mass attention that it's gotten. And those numbers actually have improved in the last couple of years. Maybe not overall this last election, but certainly the attention that is garnered by that. And the ads. Oh, my goodness. Who gets sick of the ads? Everybody gets sick of the ads, but apparently they work.
I think, in a presidential year, I mean, that's the highest office in the land. So that garners a lot of attention. And I think people realize that can shift direction in a country just by an election. So the local elections, they're equally as important. You can have a say in the direction of your community, your village, your town. I wish that people really took advantage of their opportunity, their right to vote, because that's really, when you see the shifts of numbers, that's basically a referendum on your policy, whether you're moving in the right direction or whether you're not. And you really want the greatest number of people sending that message to you, whether you're headed in the right direction. So,
Thank you. Would either of you or even both of you be able to give a brief explanation as to what the New York Assembly is and what your role is in it?
Let's be very brief on this. We are elected by there's 150 of us in the assembly. We each represent approximately 140,000 people. We do a lot of work in the district, but when we go to Albany, we're involved in meetings, committee meetings. We go to session, as Matt was explaining before. We vote basically on the first 3 months is dedicated mostly, we do some legislation, but mostly trying to pass a state budget, a responsible state budget. That should be done before April 1st. It should be. And then the latter part is mostly dealing with legislation. They're the laws of New York State that we deal with. That's as brief an explanation as we can. And then the rest of the year, while we're in session and in the rest of the year, we're out at community events. We're meeting with constituents. We're driving around our districts. As was mentioned before, Matt and I have larger districts that we have to get to. I think, or I don't know how many towns I have 40 towns and 16 villages and 3 counties, and you have even more than that. How many towns do you have?
A little over 40.
Yeah. So it's a lot of dealing with municipal governments, school districts. I have 20 school districts now?
27.
27. I have 20. Just a lot going on, and we try to get to every event and every constituent concern that we can possibly do in a day.
Yeah, and the assembly is critical in passage of any legislation. A bill, for it to become law, has to not only pass the assembly but pass the Senate, and then also receive the governor's approval by signing. So we're co-equal branches of government, the executive and the legislative branch, and there's also the judicial branch. And we all have to work together to provide a pathway forward in New York on any law.
Yeah, we also do a lot with commissions and such. Board of Regents actually has a lot to do with your schools. We get to vote on a regent every what are the terms? 6 years. We just voted on one because unfortunately Bev passed away, but Roger Catania is our Board of Regents. So we do a lot of other stuff that will impact policy, that will impact people's and students' daily lives.
Thank you.
What did you choose to run for your position? Why did you choose to run for your position?
Just had the bug to do it when I was a kid, and ran in local politics. Like I said before, it really intrigued me. I used to read about it. I used to watch TV, and I was like, hey, I want to do that at some point. And was involved locally. I didn't tell this story earlier, although my first position was mayor of the village of Chateauguay, and our barber, Gabe Lepardo, was our mayor at the time. And I was walking down the street one day, and he said, "Hey, come on in." And he said, "We want you to run for mayor." There was a bunch of older people sitting around, and I said, "Okay, why not?" And I enjoyed that. I ran for county legislator. An opportunity came up for this office back in 2016, and it's just something that I've always wanted to do. I've always said if I could make a living by being a politician and run for political office, and helping people out, that's what I wanted to do. Plus, you get to do. It's not all business. It's not all. Once in a while, we get invited to events, and you get to do some pretty cool things. And people always ask, "What's the best part of your job?" And I think helping people out is one of the most satisfying part of our jobs. When you get a good, we helped them out, and you get somebody says thank you. But one of the more fun parts of our jobs is we get to meet a lot of interesting people in Albany and around here, and you get to talk to them about how they've built up their business, or how they've done this, or they have created something, and we get to meet a lot of very interesting and cool people, and that's part of my job that I enjoy.
Yeah, and learn about other regions of the state.
Yep.
And other issues and the diverse nature of our state. It's just amazing. There's a reason why we're called the Empire State, and I think we have it all here. And if it wasn't for the fact that I'm in an elected office that provides for me getting involved in state issues, I wouldn't have been exposed to all the different regions of the state. So I got involved in politics predominantly or mostly because I had goals and ambitions that I had when I was, from the time I was first married and raising my family. And as I said before, I was self-employed. But I found that there were more and more things that were affecting my plan that were out of my control, whether it was in my town, whether I wanted to put up a shed or a garage, or cut some trees down. There's certain rules that I was unaware about. And so it was kind of the culmination of things that were out of my control at that point that I didn't know enough about, that I wanted to learn more about. And also being self-employed, naturally you're there to serve people, especially in the business that I was in. And I think that I just mostly enjoy serving people and solve problems. I think that whether it was installing drywall and taping houses and getting all done, and seeing the satisfaction that I had as the person who did that, but also the people that paid me to do that job, that were happy with the product. And although this is entirely different, it's similar because you're there to represent your constituents, serve your constituents. And the best part of our job is always when a constituent thanks you or lets you know that they appreciate your effort, whether you were successful in your endeavor or not.
Thank you so much. I know that you talked about some more popular concerns that were lobbied to you, like environmental issues. What do you think is the most unique concern a constituent has brought to you?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough question. Like I said, we tackle the a lot of issues. The most unique, I don't know.
I'm having a hard time too.
Yeah,
This is
there's been some unique ones. I don't know if I should mention them, but certainly, I remember. I'll go back to the variety of issues that we tackle, and I remember when I was first elected to the village mayor of Chateauguay, and yeah, I was out with my friends, and I was like, we were going into a restaurant, and I was like, it's just one of those days. I was like, I don't know, I want to, but you always engage with people, and they're like, really? People come up to you with? I said, yeah, they do. It's fine though, and so this lady came over, and I knew her, and shook my hand. She's like, Billy, I'm having a real issue. And I said, oh, what, Mrs. Such and Such? And she said, my neighbor's cat keeps climbing on my car. And I said, really? My friends were there. And, as a small town village mayor, I said, well, have you tried talking to the neighbor and such? So I thought that was kind of a unique one, because I didn't really have a real good answer for her right at the time. Maybe build a garage. I don't know. Keep the cat away. But there's a lot. We deal with a lot of issues that would come to you, as far as being as unique as they can get. I think some of the more unique issues that I've dealt with in this job are probably more of the private nature to someone. So I wouldn't want to say that, but we do deal with a variety, and I mean a variety of issues.
Yeah, I mean, they're all uniquely difficult issues. Even sometimes when we're all in agreement, sometimes it's difficult because we just need more funding to support something. And it's always difficult to prioritize and figure out the right prioritization of the funds that you have to work with. Like Billy, in local government, I think I had one very controversial issue that really brought people out of their homes and into the town board meeting, and it was standing room only, and it was a zoning change.
People don't like zoning,
but it was that, I think, that type of situation where somebody perceives they have a right to something, but that may conflict with the law.
Yeah.
And that's usually the most controversial issues, when there's a disagreement in what the law really means and entails.
And we deal with a lot of issues, like I said earlier. We deal with state agencies a lot, and I think that takes up a lot of, I know it does. It takes up a lot of our time and our staff's time. And people don't realize that, well, they call up with an issue and they'll just be like, well, can't you just fix it? Some kind of permitting with DEC or something. And they don't, we have a conduit to certain state agencies, but we're not the decider in that. We're not the end all. We're the legislative body. That falls under the executive. And each of these agencies that you deal with fall in there. And so when people call up, well, can't you just fix it? And you're like, no, I'm not like the almighty of the state policy, because each agency has their own policy and regulations that they go by. So we act as a conduit to state agencies that fall under the executive. And I think that's, sometimes it can be gratifying when you help them out with their issue, but sometimes it can be frustrating because, we're dealing with a state agency that's not necessarily in our purview. We do have a better way to go about solving the issue. But I think people just expect, like anything dealing with state, that you can just snap your fingers and fix it. It's not like that, because there are different rules, regulations, policies that other people are abiding by, and that most of us have to abide by. So,
And for good reason, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so that the authority is distributed. You
Yeah.
know, we wouldn't be able to just arbitrarily create a change in,
Yeah, yeah,
in a law.
yeah. Well, you
So,
try to help your constituent
to
out
work.
with the issue. You try to give them some kind of avenue, not breaking the law by any
Right.
means or policy, but you try to give them some avenue, and you try to connect them with some agency personnel that can help them with that issue.
And on the topic of helping constituents, do you ever run into obstacles where one constituent will reach out to you with a certain issue, but then another one that you also represent is like reaching out about an opposing issue, and it's kind of clashing, even though you represent both of them?
Yes, that was kind of what we were talking about before with the the lobbying and the advocacy groups that come in, and there's always two different sides to an issue. In that case, when you have two constituents that have opposing views, I mean, you listen to both of them and you try to come to a conclusion. And if you can, there's nothing wrong with the word compromise. And I know it's been a difficult word to come by as of late, especially on the national level. But there's nothing wrong with compromise. There's never been anything wrong with compromise. Doesn't mean that two people are wrong or two groups are wrong. It means that you came in the middle to actually see what the other side was, their stance on it and what they were talking about, and you could agree to do something in the middle. And I think we need more of that, especially in these divisive times. So, yeah, I've had that situation where you have two constituents that are, you should do this, you should do that, because I'm right. And you try to work it out, and you talk to both of them, and you actually just get a conversation going and are able to make each side see what the other side is talking about and what their issues are or what their issue is, and hopefully you can come to a compromise and resolve it.
I agree. You try to find middle ground where, areas of agreement. And there are those times when, you have to tell one person that, no, I can't support that. But I think it's in how you do that. It's not diminishing that issue. There may be a conflict, maybe an overall reason. I mean, we have the Constitution, which really guides our decision making in everything we do, and we have to look at all sides of it.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions you'd like to ask or anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. Is there any advice that you would give anybody watching this podcast about voting or just your guys' jobs in general?
I would give people, especially our younger people that we talked about before, that sometimes become, disenfranchised or, don't want to get involved in the process, or anybody. I would say get involved in the process, vote. There's always a way to get involved in your community, and in a positive way. There's always ways to get involved in your community in a positive ways. There's always groups, there's always organizations, there's always somebody looking, especially now, looking for people to be involved. And, if you want to get into this political realm, I would certainly encourage people to start out with, getting involved, asking questions of their local electeds, asking questions of people, know the issues. I think that's one of the biggest things. Know the issues in your community, in your neighborhood. And if you can, if you want to be involved in elected office, to, That's how I would recommend you start out. But I certainly would encourage people to vote and to actually understand the issues and understand both sides of the issues. It's easy to walk in. It's easy to walk into a group and talk to them about an issue that you feel with them. We call that herding or something. Like, yeah, I'm with you. This is with you. But if you really want to understand an issue, get the opposing views on an issue. That's how you really understand an issue. So just get involved in your community, learn what's important to people, and absolutely vote.
Yeah, get involved in public service organizations. There are a lot of service organizations out there. And I think from just my experience, I found something that I became more passionate about than what I thought my career was going to be for the rest of my life. It was life-changing for me, dramatic change from where I was at and what I ultimately decided to do and be in public office. But it all starts with just realizing how powerful your voice is and exercising that power and that right when you vote. It's so important.
All right. Well, thank you so much for both of your times. I
Thank you.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah.